Hey guys, welcome back to SB Racing Garage. So we're back on the old Challenger here. Last you saw, we got the rear suspension in. So we've done a little bit of work to it. We got I just placed the rear end in. So we kind of got it, I got it centered, and then we'll go from there. So stick around and watch me battle getting this rear end in. You'll see the new wheels and tires today and sitting down on the ground, and we'll see how low she sits with those 1-inch drop springs. So here's where we're at so far. We just got the rear end centered and placed in. We got these, when you order I ordered the heavy duty leaf spring purchase. So they'll need to be welded along here. All I'm doing right now is I'm just going to get it all set in, get the U-bolts tightened down, get it set on the ground, because we're not going to know where our pinion's going to sit, and we still will have to set the pinion angle. But for right now, I just want to get it all mocked together. We'll get the rear end assembled, the axles in, center section in, brakes on. You'll get to see the new brakes, and wheels and tires, and go from there. Hopefully I'll be able to get that all done in this video and today. If not, then you'll just have to stick around for the next one. But like I said in the last video, they should be coming out quick here. I've got a ton of parts, ton of work to do. I've got the whole rear suspension here. I got the front suspension to do. You'll see what we're doing with that. Wheels, tires, brakes, we got everything. Roll cages here, so we'll be installing that. We got a lot of good things coming up, so stick around and watch us bring this 80s race car back to life. Alright guys, so I crawled under here and try to lift this third member up. First, we're trying one of these lube locker gaskets. Apparently they are leak free. I think they sent me the wrong one. Oh, maybe not. I'm just getting tired. So normally I would just use RTV here, but I'll try using this gasket. And apparently they're reusable and don't leak, so we'll put that to the test and see how it actually works. And now for the center section. So what I ended up going with, as you'll see, is it is an aluminum case, Ford. It is a Yukon aluminum case, spool, and 389 gears. Figured 389 would be would be best. And once I figured it out, I'll talk to you guys in a sec. Heavy. All right. Let's try to get this in here. God, fighting with these can be, especially when they're heavy. Alright, I'm going to pause you guys. Unless you want to see me struggling. I'll be honest, I don't know how much I like this gasket. I feel like it kind of gets in the way. Alright guys, so after lots of struggling, I finally got the third member installed, mounted, and I am kind of glad I went with the aluminum case because it's a lot easier to bench press up there. But it's all installed. We'll get ready to do the axles here, which this is these are the axles we'll be going with. We'll get it centered up. So they are a 35 spline Moser axle. They've been gun drilled, as you can see. I don't know how much strength that adds. I know it does lighten them, which I'm trying to go as light as possible. I don't have a ton of power to work with, even though, yeah, 800 sounds like a lot, but some of the big guys are running a lot more than that, and I want to be competitive. So since there's no weight limit for the class we'll be running in, we try to make it as light as possible. We're just doing the 5/8 drive studs right now. They basically just screw into the axle. Then use these locking nuts on the back. I like to add a little red Loctite on them just to make sure they don't go anywhere, but these are pretty beefy studs that pretty sure you're not going to break. I just throw some vice grips on them. Don't worry, they're not on the threads. 5/8 or drive studs use a spacer in between the wheel and the lug nut, and the wheel kind of sits on these. Well, you'll see. Jesus. Now, they're supposed to be torqued to 50 foot-pounds, which I'd say is about there. Alright, that's one. Just, oops, a little much. There's 5 more to go here. It's a pain because they're not left-handed threaded. So, when you're tightening them on, and because they're a nylock, they just try to turn the drive stud out of the axle, so you gotta clamp them and hold them, and there's no like Allen head or anything like that on the other side to be able to hold the stud in. It's kind of a pain. All right, so that's two. So you kind of get the idea. I'll do the rest here and then pick back up when I'm sliding the axle in. All right, so we got the drive studs all installed. Slide the old axle in. Make sure this plane's all clean. Pretty straightforward. So as you know, normally there's a seal that gets installed here, the inner seal. I'm not installing that right now because this is all just mock-up. Get it at ride height, set the pinion angle because I still have to pull out and I have to weld the perches on, the spring perches. I don't want any chance of that ruining the seal. You can see because the rear end's narrowed so much, pretty close to the leaves, and I don't want any chance of ruining that seal. So we're just gonna leave it out for now, get it mocked up. It's not like we won't be putting any oil in it or anything like that. It's gonna need a little persuasion. Of course, my hammer's on the other side. You really gotta suck it in back here. All right, a few taps with the old oop. Well, the spines are engaged. That is a tight fit. Pieces of hammer are flying off the old rubber. I haven't dealt with an axle this tight before. I do have the passenger side on. It's tight for me to film over there, so I figured get that in, and it did not go this tight. All right, get a block of wood and all right, guys. So we got the axle in there. So it's held by the caliper retaining plate that came with the brake kit. For brakes, we will be going with the TBM brakes. They are the no drag disc brake setup. They come with the F3 rotors for the rear. The front rotors are actually smaller in the front. You'll see them when we do the front suspension. Basically, their thinking is, which makes sense, running the skinny front runners on the front and your big tires on the back. Despite what we've all learned that most of your braking's done with the front, on a drag car, it's actually kind of the opposite. So we've got Wilwood master cylinder that we'll be installing, and you run no proportioning valve. So they recommend your primary port on the master cylinder actually runs to the back, that typically runs to the front. So most of your braking actually comes from the rear. They say it's what works, so that's what we're going to go with. We're going to try it out, and I mean, if we need to add something later, we can. But the rotors themselves, you get the hat and the rotor. I've already mounted the rotor to the hat and kind of test fit it on here. it has different steps on the hat, and it's also got two different sides of the rotor, so you can go flat side or this recess side out. That will just be with different axle offsets to your housing. You can get it exactly centered of your caliper. There's also some shims. We ended up just going on the second step, the middle step, with the recess facing out, so the flat side against the mounting hat, and that put us dead square. We don't even need any shims. So rear brakes are pretty simple. They just slide on over the studs, tight fit. And then the caliper itself, so there's a pin that holds the pad in. We've got that out right now, and the pad's out. It's just held onto the caliper by these two bolts. We're not Loctiting or really cinching anything down yet, because this is all just for mock-up. Get it down on the ground. I think I've said this about 30 times, but see where it's sitting. We'll have to set the pinion angle, measure the drive shaft, do all that kind of stuff, and then it's all going to get pulled back apart so we can finish up welding on the rear end housing, do things like brake lines, things like that, and then get it all painted or powder coated, whatever decide I'm going to go with. Like all calipers, want to make sure the bleeder screws to the top. So we'll just get this slid in. The screws started. Like everything, I like to screw everything in by hand first, just so you're not cross-threading anything, and you just get a better feel for it of the bolt going in. So just cinch it down. So typically these bolts would get blue Loctite on them, but I am not doing that right now. Just like I said, this is all just for mock-up right now, just to see how everything sits, and you'll get to see the new wheels going on. The pads, they're really easy to install. They just slide in. They actually say you can do these with the wheel on the car, if you can squeeze in there, and then the pin just slides through. I know you can't see that right now, but with the angle, but I'll bring you around and show you here in a second. And it's got this little clip that just slides through, a little retaining clip. So yeah, like that. And we got the new brakes on, and I mean, they look cool and they look nice. We'll see how well they perform, but I think it'll be good. So I will just bring you around here. You're gonna lose light in a second. Apparently I didn't bring a long enough cord to bring you around. All right, bring you over here. These are the brakes, and as you can see, this is the retaining clip here. It's just a pin that goes in, and it's got a clip that holds it in, and the pads just get slid in. Right now, obviously, they're a little loose because the piston's not pressing up against them. But these are low drag, so what happens is you let out, the pistons retract, so that the pad's just riding on the rotor. It doesn't grab it at all. So like they say, it's zero drag. So now for the best part, we'll grab the wheel. Now I already know the offset's a little wrong on these wheels, so I'm gonna have to grab a spacer, and I don't know what size I'm gonna use yet. NHRA, you can use a spacer, despite people might tell you it's not going to be one of those, hanky ones that bolt on and then it has its own lug nuts. It's an actual billet spacer that will probably go like 3/4 of an inch. But for now, I'm just going to use these aluminum spacers, which they're actually made for the drive studs. So when you have drive studs like these, the wheel itself actually sits on the shank. It doesn't sit on the lug nuts. And then you use a spacer, and the lug nut is what tightens against it. So the wheel actually rides on these 11/16 shanks instead of the lug bolts itself. It's just to increase strength. But now here's the nice part. Roll this big bad boy over. So for wheels and tires, we went with the 275 Mickey Thompson Pro Drag on a 15x12 RC Comp wheel with dual bead locks. So we'll just get these spacers in here. We're only going to put 3 lug nuts on for now, just to get it set down. Make sure, hopefully this clears the calipers and rotors. And there we go. Those are the wheels and tires. They are a gorgeous wheel. Not cheap, but they look nice. So it's a 275. It is stretched on the